Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 14th of August 2013. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, Microsoft announces that Kinect will no longer be required for the Xbox One. Xbox One controller support coming to the PC in 2014. Chivalry Medieval Warfare sells over 1.2 million copies, and we'll have a look at this week's new releases. All this and the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. During a recent IGN Q&A session with Microsoft, it was revealed that the Xbox One console no longer requires the Kinect to be plugged in order to function. This is, of course, yet another in a series of U-turns by Microsoft based on its original policy announcements that have been progressively disappearing over the course of the last few months. Initially, the Kinect was required to be plugged in order to function. Later on, Microsoft announced it would be possible to put the Kinect essentially into a sleep mode where it wouldn't be collecting any information. After that, we've now had the announcement that the Kinect can actually be literally unplugged from the system and it will still function. You can still turn the machine on without the Kinect plugged in, and you can still use it normally. However, of course, you won't be able to use any of the Kinect features specifically. That is kind of a big deal, because it was yet another of the major complaints that people had with the Kinect, and you might ask, well, why? Or why did people complain about it? Well, there's a couple of really legitimate reasons here. The first legitimate reason is it's an additional failure point in the chain. The more kit you have in this particular setup, and the more dependent that kit is upon each other, the more likely it is that the setup is going to fail. There's an additional failure point there that wasn't there previously. If your Kinect breaks, then suddenly your Xbox One doesn't work. And that's something that's fairly easy to see happening as well. We are talking about a fairly large, expensive piece of equipment that could be knocked off a table or a desk very easily. And that's not taking into account the possibility of hardware failure, which Microsoft has firmly demonstrated within the past 8 years that they are not necessarily capable of handling. We are talking about the company that made the term red ring a verb, a very popular and well-used one as well. So there's that, and there's also the fact that Microsoft colluded with intelligence agencies to release private information about its users. There's that. That's kind of a big deal. So you combine that with the current distrust, and you think, oh, you know what I wouldn't want in my house? A gigantic-ass 3D camera with an accurate microphone that could be recording everything I say and do. Let's be honest, right? Your mobile phone can do that as well, and you'll happily carry that around. But at the end of the day, it's all about perception, and people didn't like that idea. There are also fears that developers will attempt to put mandatory Kinect features into games that don't need them, because they know there'll be 100% installed user base. Now, they still know that there's 100% installed user base. As of right now, there is no announcement about an Xbox One coming without the Kinect. There's no basic model that would match the price of the PlayStation 4 yet. We'll see whether or not that changes. But the reality of the situation is that there would still be 100% installed user base even if this thing wasn't required. You'd know that everyone had a Kinect, but developers are less likely to put Kinect-specific features, especially mandatory ones, into their games if they know it's possible for gamers just to not have the Kinect plugged in to begin with. That's good, because quite frankly, I don't think we need mandatory Kinect-based features. I don't believe that that system is 1, accurate enough, 2, actually required for core gaming whatsoever, and 3, has a proven track record of enhancing existing core games. It doesn't, at all. There may be a time when I really want voice commands in my game, but right now is not that time. The system is simply not accurate enough yet in order to make that work. It's not good enough in terms of its interpretation, doesn't have the right kind of latency timing, and more to the point, doesn't work well in a noisy environment, which many front rooms have a tendency to be. So the question is now very simply this: what exactly is the difference between an Xbox One and a PlayStation 4 right now? What have they rolled back? What were the big complaints that we had about the Xbox One, and what have they changed? Okay, 1. The online requirement. Gone. Yeah, that's not there anymore. So you can count that out. 2. The Kinect requirement. Gone. So you can count that out. 3. Region locking. Gone. So you can take that out as well. 4. Lack of used games. Gone. 5. Lack of backwards compatibility. Same thing as the PlayStation 4. There's equality there. 6. Less powerful than the PlayStation 4. This is still the case. Admittedly, they've slightly upclocked it, so it's a little more similar than what it was, but the PlayStation 4 is still a more powerful piece of kit. 7. The $100 more price point, which supposedly includes the price of the Kinect. Could that change in future? Possibly. It is entirely feasible that they would release a version of it for $100 less that would actually not include the Kinect. At which point you have a very, very close race between these two. Now, you can say whatever you want about Microsoft, but at the end of the day, they have addressed almost every concern that this system actually has. And at this point, it's very hard to say, no, still not buying it, la la la, not listening, and not actually be thought a fool. You have to take this kind of thing seriously. If you protest something and the company changes because you protested it, then the wrong message to give that company is, lol, still not buying it. Yeah, I get it. They made some really, really dumb choices with this. But the point of this kind of boycott action or protesting is to get something changed. And now it's been changed. If you still don't want to buy the Xbox and you want to buy the PlayStation 4 instead, I don't blame you at all. You know, if I wasn't going to buy both, then I would have picked the PlayStation 4, I think. I mean, I'm still kind of looking at the launch lineups right now, but I think the PlayStation 4 would be a better choice for me. However, now the Xbox One is significantly more attractive than it was in the first place. Speaking of the Xbox One, one of the most attractive things about it was actually its controller, which is looking rather sleek and sexy indeed. It's now been announced that the Xbox One controller will be compatible with PC, but that will be coming in 2014. Which is a little bit unfortunate. Microsoft's spokesperson said there is some work that we need to do to make sure that existing PC games that support the Xbox 360 controller will work with the Xbox One controller. While it seems trivial, he said, it's actually quite a bit of dedicated work for all that to be seamless for the user. We know that people want to use the Xbox One controller on their PC, and we do too, so we expect to have the functionality available in 2014. Well, I mean, that's not too bad, considering that the machine is coming out towards the end of 2013. It's around November, as far as we know, assuming there are no changes. So, it depends really what they mean by that. Do they mean it's going to, like, take a month or so, or do they mean it's going to be later in 2014? I think right now, it's clear to see, as a PC gamer, that the controller to own is the 360 controller. And the reason I say that is because the majority of games support that natively and don't require any kind of configuration or anything like that. That's very handy. That plug-and-play nature is a very useful part of what the Xbox 360 controller offers to the PC market. Hopefully the Xbox One controller can offer the same kind of thing. In this case, it doesn't look like there will be a wired version of the Xbox One controller, which does mean it's a little bit different. The situation right now is you can get a wired 360 controller, plug it in via USB, and it just works straight away. If you want to use a wireless one, then you would need to purchase the official dongle for that. However, there's a bit of a difference with the Xbox One controller because you can actually plug in a micro USB cable to it, and that will switch off the controller's wireless functions and means the data is going to be sent through the cord instead. Now, that's actually kind of a different thing to what we've been seeing with the previous generation stuff. Like, you can't turn a PlayStation 3 controller into a wired controller by plugging in a USB cable. It still uses the Bluetooth communication method. It doesn't send that data down the wire. Same with the 360 controller if you plug in a play and charge kit, for instance. So that's a fundamental difference between the two. A very handy one at that. We don't know exactly what would be required in order to get a wireless controller for the Xbox One working with the PC. We know that unlike the PlayStation 3 controller, it doesn't use Bluetooth, so you can't just hook it up that way. You'll probably need another dongle, I would imagine. But personally, I'm pretty happy to see that they're at least taking it seriously. I mean, they do have a very strong position on the PC market when it comes to their controller use. Hey, some good news for once. That's nice to hear, isn't it? Chivalry Medieval Warfare, the indie title by Torn Banner, which involves chopping people's heads off with pole axes, has exceeded 1.2 million copies sold on the PC platform since its release 9 months ago. They also released a bunch of other rather juicy stats, including that their concurrent user peak was 23,000 players, and that their game was most popular in the US with 455,000 copies sold, followed by 98,000 in the UK, 87,000 in Canada, And disappointingly, Sweden is only at 29,000 copies. What the hell are you guys doing? You're behind Brazil. This is completely unacceptable. God, Sweden, what are you doing, guys? Come on, represent! I know you're usually neutral in this, but really, you gotta pick up a sword and fight the Horde. Anyway, Torn Banner is obviously fairly happy about this, and have announced that they'll be introducing a customization system into the game, which allows you to change the colors of various parts of your warrior, as well as a bunch of new helmets, tabard patterns, shield patterns, and crests. As it stands, this would appear to be a free update, alongside pretty much everything else that they've put into the game, which, for the most part, included features that they actually gained through their Kickstarter. That included duel mode, incidentally, so it does make sense that they would introduce that as free content. Chivalry's just so good. It's really hard for me to find fault with that game. And this comes from someone that, up until the release of Chivalry, was big into War of the Roses and thought, wow, this is amazing. Then I played Chivalry, I'm like, wow, this is better. And I actually kind of feel sorry for War of the Roses, because it seemed to come out at just the wrong time. I think if Chivalry wasn't around, it would have done a hell of a lot better. But at the end of the day, Chivalry is really, really good. And it is one of the only games that have managed to do first-person melee in multiplayer without screwing it up. It also happens to have a fantastic sense of humor about it, even if the setting is somewhat grimdark and objectives require slaughtering of royal families, burning of villages, and the poisoning of wells. I'm really interested to see what Torn Banner decides to do next. Hopefully it's not a game about Vikings, because otherwise Fat Shark's going to be very, very upset. And finally, I'm actually a day late and hopefully not $1 short on this one, because I kind of forgot to do my release date roundup yesterday. My apologies, I think I'm a day behind where I'm supposed to be. Anyway, let's have a look at the upcoming releases this week that you can look forward to. It's actually a fairly release-heavy week for the most part, so let's kick it off. So, Mario and Luigi Dream Team, that came out a couple of days ago. As usual, the whole Wii release on a Sunday for no apparent reason thing has been going on with Nintendo. And the Mario and Luigi series is a little bit weird. It's a strange spin-off, honestly. And it is a series of RPGs for the most part. In this case, it is Mario traversing dreams within Luigi's mind. There's all sorts of very strange stuff going on with that one. Overall impressions of the game seem to be very, very positive across the board, with a few people complaining that the tutorial kinda sucks. Some reviews also complained about the amount of hand-holding that the game had, indicating that hardcore players may be put off by that. Aside from that, though, it looks like a solid entry in the franchise. We've got Hammer Watch that's out on PC. That is a rather interesting mix of a top-down hack-and-slash RPG with some crazy bullet hell stuff. Seems like something of a cross between Gauntlet and Ikaruga. So that is currently available on Steam, nice and cheap. Couple of releases that came out on the 13th, the big one being Payday 2, that's on PC, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. Currently that is suffering some launch problems at the time of this recording. Supposedly they're in the process of hotfixing all of that stuff right now, but just be aware if you're looking for a bug-free experience, Payday 2 at the moment may not deliver. Might take a couple of days to actually smooth out those launch day jitters. It's also recommended that you restart Steam upon installing it to make sure that Payday 2 properly syncs with the cloud. Supposedly there's some conflict with the actual beta files and things like that. I actually had a couple of problems in the beta that were very similar, so certainly I'd keep an eye out for that one. Europa Universalis 4 is also out. That's coming out to PC and Linux, which is another in the rather long-running Grand Strategy series. Don't expect me to make any comments on that one. I'm sorry, but I do first impressions. If it takes 100 hours to get into your game, I'm probably not going to do a video about it. DuckTales Remastered, also coming out on PC, PlayStation 3, Xbox, as well as Wii U. That has got fairly mixed reception for the most part. I think the difference really is those who are nostalgic for the NES version really liked it. Those who weren't really didn't. I do have a copy of it. I'll be looking into it over the next few days. PlayStation Vita owners, you will be able to get yourself a copy of Open Me, the augmented reality puzzle game about opening trapped boxes. I have no idea why, but it's a game for the Vita. We don't have many of those. Might be a good idea. Oh my. Alright, what else have we got coming up? So we do have Fruit Ninja for PlayStation Vita. Jesus Christ, why? Break Quest Extra Evolution Freemium, also for PlayStation Vita, which is, that's kind of interesting that we're suddenly getting all these small games popping out on Vita in the same week, but there you go. You think maybe the one actually space those out, but apparently not, because also Amen is coming out as well. The site describes that as a mixture of Lemmings and Lost Vikings. That actually kind of sounds interesting. We'll see if that ends up being any good. What else have we got on the chopping block? Gone Home, coming out on the 15th of August to PC and Mac. This is currently garnering some rather interesting impressions from people. It's a first-person exploration game in a modern residential locale. So there you go. You can roam around in a large house. Doesn't really seem to have any particular reason to do so. I think this kind of looks like a bit of Dear Esther stuff going on. I'm not entirely certain if that's the case, but the company behind it, Fulbright, actually has some ex-team members from BioShock Infinite, as well as BioShock 2, the DLC, and XCOM. So, you know, there's definitely a pedigree there. Space Hulk coming to the PC on August the 15th. The review code for this doesn't appear to be forthcoming. We were told we're only getting it on release day, so that's not exactly ideal. The game looks really interesting. As a 40K fan, I'm always excited for 40K games, but the company behind it, Full Control, is not exactly known for its pedigree at this stage. So we will have to see. I do have some doubts about them, but we'll see how it goes. Supposedly it's a fairly faithful conversion of the board game, so you can't really screw that up too hard, but considering Cyanide mucked up Blood Bowl on multiple occasions, it remains to be seen. Another Worms game, Worms Clan Wars, make this way to PC on August the 15th. Why do they keep re-releasing the same bloody game with additional tweaks? I don't even know at this stage. I lost interest for Worms like 4 iterations ago, I'm sorry. And, of course, the killer app for 3DS is Crazy Chicken Pirates 3D. Oh god, why? Alright. Thank you very much for watching, folks. Before I go, I'd like to give you the OC Remix track of the day. Sounds like a plan, does it not? Yes, it does. So, without further ado, let me show you something really awesome. Yesterday, I played you a track from Shadow of the Colossus. Now I'm going to play the other one. This is absolutely phenomenal, I have to say. It is one of the best tracks on OC Remix, bar none. It is a collaboration between Beige, Cerrax, Sixto Sounds, the legendary guitar remixer, as well as nonsensicalexis. The original composer for this was Ko Otani, and it is a medley of Counterattack Battle with the Colossus and the Opened Way Battle with the Colossus. It is that damn good, quite frankly. Absolutely love it. Really, really great. Hopefully you do too. Download it for free in the description below this video, and I will see you next time.